My best friend and I transmigrated into a novel together. She became the Crown Prince's substitute for his white moonlight, while I became the young minister of the Dali Temple's bed-warming maid. On the surface, we were the laughingstocks of idle gossip, but no one knew we spent our days savoring tea, listening to storytellers, and flirting with handsome young actors, living in private with boundless joy. 5 comfortable years passed just like this. The true female lead of the story finally appeared. After witnessing the Crown Prince and the Chief Minister of the Court of Judicial Review's infatuation with the heroine, my best friend asked me, "Shall we go?" "Go. The travel permits are all ready." Later, we both faked our deaths to escape. 3 years later, the Crown Prince cornered my best friend in a private room of an Indian brothel. I overturned the screen with a single push, run through the window. There are horses at the back door, but the next second, someone grabbed me by the collar, and I fell into a sturdy embrace. The Deputy Minister of the Court of Judicial Review wore a cold smirk at the corner of his lips. "Run, weren't you so good at running?" Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful stories every day. Now, the story begins. Recently, Yu Jiao had acquired a piece of mutton fat jade worth its weight in gold. When the Crown Prince entered the courtyard, the two of us were leaning against the window lattice, holding it up to the sunlight for inspection. As the Crown Prince drew nearer to the door, Yu Jiao kicked me straight under the bed. "Quick, hide for now," he urged anxiously. I had just concealed myself. The Crown Prince's gilded dragon-patterned boots stepped through the doorway. The ever-graceful Yu Jiao, who moments before had resembled an exquisite peony in full bloom, instantly transformed into a picture of delicate vulnerability, with light footsteps. She gracefully bowed and said in a delicate voice, "Your Highness, this humble consort thought she wouldn't even see you on New Year's Eve." The Crown Prince merely glanced at Yu Jiao before walking straight to the couch and sitting down, watching his dragon-patterned boots stop just a foot away from me. I held my breath and shrank back further. "Yu Jiao, you needn't attend the palace's New Year's Eve banquet tonight." "Ah," Yu Jiao was visibly taken aback, asking in confusion. "Your concubine is the Crown Princess. Shouldn't it be your concubine accompanying your Highness on such an occasion?" The Crown Prince grew impatient. "If I say you don't need to go, then you don't need to go. Juana has returned, and she said she doesn't want to see any other women by my side tonight." Yu Jiao widened her eyes in disbelief, her voice tinged with a hint of tears. "So, your Highness means that just because Song Juana says so, your concubine must hide away as if she's something to be ashamed of?" The Crown Prince stood up, his voice icy. "Don't forget how you got through this door in the first place. If you didn't bear some resemblance to Juana, do you think I would have even glanced at you?" The Crown Prince flicked his sleeve and strode toward the door. Yu Jiao rushed to grab his arm but caught only empty air. Behind him, she wept heartbrokenly. "Your Highness, how could you treat me like this? Today is my birthday." The Crown Prince's footsteps hesitated for a moment. He turned back, pausing only briefly before saying, "You know this in my heart. You could never compare to Juana." Without another word of hesitation, he strode away. Yu Jiao rushed to the door, her voice breaking with anguish as she cried out, "Your Highness, your Highness, only when I was certain the Crown Prince had gone far away did I crawl out from under the bed." Yu Jiao let out a long breath. "Phew, finally. He's gone." Brushing the dust off my clothes, I remarked with admiration, "What a waste you're not in an opera troupe." Yu Jiao wiped her face haphazardly and plopped down on the chair. "The female lead has appeared. We need to plan carefully. Given the current situation, the female lead won't tolerate us. Who knows when she might try to kill us both." I also sensed the gravity of the situation. "Then what should we do now?" "Run." Yu Jiao gritted her teeth. "With enough silver, anywhere can be a good life." Both Yu Jiao and I have transmigrated into this novel. She's the stand-in for the Crown Prince's white moonlight, married to him solely because of her 50% resemblance to his beloved. 5 years into their marriage, the prince hasn't given her a single day of kindness. As for me, I'm the warming bed maid of the Assistant Minister of the Court of Judicial Review, also the orphaned daughter of a disgraced official, though Lu Yu shows me some favor. He treats me as nothing more than a bed-warming object, though we both appear to be living miserable lives, becoming laughingstocks throughout the entire Xinjiang capital. but we secretly disguised ourselves to leave the mansion, drinking tea, listening to storytelling, and visiting male courtesans. The days passed with indescribable comfort, but now, the female lead has appeared. According to the book, the Crown Prince, for the sake of the female lead, would defy the emperor to marry her, only to eventually demote her from wife to concubine. The assistant minister of the Court of Judicial Review was even more of a romantic fool. Despite his usual ruthless and cold-blooded demeanor, the moment he encountered the female lead, he transformed into a docile lamb, his beautiful peach blossom eyes brimming with nothing but tender affection. But the two of them shared one thing in common: they were both overly confident. They never paid any attention to our affairs. Over the past 5 years, the two of us had taken advantage of the secret tunnels we'd dug to indulge in plenty of mischief. "We need to leave quickly," Yu Jiao said cautiously, with just one sentence. The female lead made the Crown Prince abandon me at the estate on such an important day. Next, it'll be child's play for her to sideline me completely. You're not exactly innocent either, and the assistant minister of Dali Temple is downright insane. Crushing you would be as easy as squashing an ant. A sudden cold wind swept across the flat ground. I shrank my neck into my shoulders, not daring to dwell on the thought. Given Lu Yu's obsession with the female lead, if she couldn't tolerate my existence, he'd probably slit my throat without batting an eye. Go. We must leave quickly. Life is indeed precious. Yet nothing else matters now. Yu Jiao stared into my eyes, confirming my resolve to flee, and asked, "How much silver do you have?" I answered honestly, "How much could a maid like me possibly have? Don't you have plenty?" Yu Jiao, fortunately, we're close enough that Yu Jiao wouldn't mind supporting me. To make up for my financial shortcomings, I quickly added, "But I managed to get 2 travel permits to Tianzhu." Yu Jiao slapped her thigh and exclaimed, "It's settled then." But after discussing it thoroughly, we couldn't come up with any good escape plan. After all, one was the crown prince of a nation, practically half emperor. The other was the ruthless and cold-blooded vice minister of the Court of Judicial Review, a master tracker. No matter how we fled, we'd likely leave traces behind. After much deliberation, there was only one foolproof solution. That was to fake one's death. "Who dies first?" I asked. She said, "I'll die first." "Why should you die first?" I furrowed my brow. "I want to die first too. Everyone knows the one who dies later has to clean up the mess left by the one who goes first." Yu Jiao said, "Let's play pitchpot. The winner gets their wish." I won. She added, "Best 2 out of 3. In the end, she won. Angrily, I kicked over the pot. "Die. Die. You die first." Yu Jiao went to prepare for death arrangements. I crawled out through the dog hole in her courtyard. I planned to go back first and dig out the jade pendant hidden under the begonia tree. It was my most valuable possession, left to me by my mother. But just as I held the pendant in my palm, "What are you doing?" a clear and refreshing voice sounded from behind. It was Lu Yu. Why had he returned so early today? Normally, he wouldn't come back to the mansion until the moon was bright and stars were sparse. My brain was spinning so fast it nearly sparked. After pausing for 2 breaths, I calmly turned around, opened my palm towards Lu Yu, and flashed a sweet smile. "This is a treasure I've kept for a long time, originally meant as your birthday gift. Who would have thought?" I glanced at him hesitantly, twisting my fingers together in silence. Lu Yu seemed to be in good spirits. He took the jade pendant from my palm and led me toward the bedroom with his other hand. Once inside the bedroom, he produced a set of clothes from somewhere and tossed them into my arms. "Put these on." I stared at the semi-transparent lavender fabric in my hand, my little face scrunching up into a frown. I stammered, "See, can I not wear it? It's too thin. I'll freeze." His tone brooked no argument. "You'll warm up soon enough." No one knew that Lu Yu had grown up in an opera troupe as a child, where he not only went hungry and cold, but was beaten and scolded by the troupe leader every single day. One day, the troupe leader offended an official's wife, and the entire opera troupe was disbanded. Everyone scattered in all directions. In his haste, he accidentally knocked over a little girl wearing a light purple ruchuan. The girl picked herself up without blaming him and even gave him the embroidered handkerchief from her sleeve. She said to him, "Your head is bleeding. Wipe it before you run." When he had run far enough, he unfolded the handkerchief and looked at it. The name Song Hwana was embroidered above with exquisite silk thread. After I became his bed-warming maid, he would always make me wear light purple garments whenever he took pleasure with me, and at the height of passion, he would call me Hwana. Every time that happened, I would dig my nails deep into my palms and tell myself, Gu Ching Cheng, you can lose everything, but never your heart. Be good, put it on and let me see. He coaxed me into his embrace, forcing me to meet his gaze. In his pitch-black pupils, I saw a flickering flame ignite. My legs instinctively weakened, and he took the opportunity to pull me onto his lap. He began removing my garments, his dark pupils growing brighter with each layer shed. When I lay upon the couch clad only in translucent gauze, bare beneath its flimsy veil, his brilliant peach blossom eyes traced me from head to toe as though admiring rare treasure. Then came labored breaths mingled with scorching kisses, descending upon me like a tempest. Each touch seemed to carry endless, unspoken tenderness, I must admit. Lu Yu gave me an exquisite experience. Every time, he could lift me to the highest heavens, lingering there endlessly. The branches outside the window creaked under the torment of the night rain. Inside, my pale fingers twirled a damp strand of Lu Yu's hair as I leaned against his chest and asked him, "My lord, do I have a place in your heart?" Lu Yu's breath hitched for a moment. I never thought I'd ask such a foolish question. After all, I'm just a bed-warming maid. No matter how illustrious my family once was, it's all gone now, like winter streams that never return. Now that I rely on this body to please others, how could I have the audacity to ask such an overreaching question? Lu Yu didn't answer. Silence was his answer. Yet I stubbornly pressed on, unwilling to accept it. "My lord, did you ever love me?" Lu Yu's patience finally ran out. Pushing my hand away, he rose from the bed and began to dress, biting my lip. I numbly started putting on my clothes as well, yet the tears still fell uncontrollably. As I stepped out the door, I turned back with tearful eyes, gazing at him with hopeful longing. "My lord, one day you will marry me, won't you?" Lu Yu frowned deeply, his expression distant and cold. "Get out." Whenever I showed even the slightest infatuation with Lu Yu, he would ignore me for days on end. Using this trick, I often sneaked out to fool around with Yu Jiao. Never failed, this time. It's perfect for executing our grand plan of faking our deaths. Late at night, Yu Jiao came to find me. "I'm ready, how about you?" I nodded. "I'm ready too." We went through the plan one more time together, confirming every step was flawless. Yu Jiao, good, now I can die without regrets. The next day was the first day of the Lunar New Year, when many high-ranking officials and nobles had the custom of offering incense. Early in the morning, Yu Jiao prepared herself properly and boarded the sedan chair waiting at her doorstep. Unexpectedly, besides the crown prince inside the sedan, Song Hwana sat gracefully by his side, dressed in a dignified dark purple satin gown embroidered with golden peacock feathers. Anyone who didn't know better would think he and she were the couple. Their hands remained tightly clasped beneath their sleeves, showing no intention of loosening even at the sight of Yu Jiao. Yu Jiao awkwardly averted her gaze and silently took a seat to the side. By protocol, as the daughter of the Prime Minister, Song Hwana should have paid respects to the Crown Princess, but basking in the Crown Prince's favor, she merely looked at Yu Jiao with a face full of smug triumph. Yu Jiao kept her eyes downcast, not wishing to engage in further conversation with the two of them. Since she was leaving anyway, there was no point in saying more. Song Hwana, dressed lightly today, let out two delicate coughs behind her hand as a cool breeze swept by. The Crown Prince immediately pulled her into his arms with a worried expression, asking tenderly, "Did you catch a chill?" Song Hwana lifted her petite face and gave the Crown Prince a delicate, charming smile. "It's all right. I just wanted to wear the feathered satin skirt you gifted me today. But I was in such a hurry this morning that I forgot to bring a cloak." Yu Jiao instinctively tightened the fox fur cloak around her shoulders. When she looked up, she met the gazes of the two people opposite who were staring at her, a command devoid of any emotion. "Yu Jiao, take off your cloak and give it to Hwana." With a challenging glint in her eyes, she raised her chin slightly, looking at her with a faint smile. Yu Jiao's heart had never felt so cold. Although the Crown Prince had been distant before, under her gentle persistence, They had at least maintained mutual respect, but today, he completely disregarded Yu Jiao's feelings, openly showering another woman with favor right in front of her. Pushed to her limit, Yu Jiao dropped all pretense. Lifting her head calmly, she met their gazes. "If you want my cloak, fine, beg me, and I'll give it to her." This version of Yu Jiao was one the Crown Prince had never seen before. His eyes widened slightly as he froze in stunned silence. Beside them, Song Huana noticed the Crown Prince was just staring at Yu Jiao without saying a word. The next second, her eyes slightly reddened, biting her lip as she spoke to the Crown Prince with tears welling up. "Brother Crown Prince, let it be. Please don't scold the Crown Princess for my sake. Huana isn't cold." The Crown Prince snapped out of his thoughts and glared fiercely at Yu Jiao, his voice icy cold. "Yu Jiao, take it off when you're told. For Huana to wear your cloak is your good fortune. At worst, I'll reward you with another one when we return to the palace." It was rare that he still remembered that year on Yu Jiao's birthday. He had personally hunted the fox in the woods and had the cloak made for her. Only 2 years had passed, and Yu Jiao couldn't stand being near these two any longer. Lifting the carriage curtain, she shouted, "Halt the sedan," as she rose to leave. The Crown Prince suddenly seized her wrist. His grip was so fierce it seemed he meant to crush her bones. "You can leave, but leave the cloak behind." Yu Jiao gasped in pain, stubbornly blinking back her tears. She took off the cloak and stepped thinly into the cold wind. That night, Yu Jiao came down with a high fever. She kept murmuring the Crown Prince's name in her delirium. The maid went to summon the prince, who only coldly replied, "It was her own willfulness, she deserves to suffer the consequences." Yu Jiao burned with fever for a full day and 2 nights. When the maid pushed open the door on the 3rd day, she found her already breathless. The Crown Prince heard the news and rushed barefoot to Yu Jiao's chamber without even putting on his outer robe. His hands trembled as he grasped Yu Jiao's fingers. They were already ice-cold to the bone. His face froze in an instant, as if a gaping wound had been torn open in his heart. The wind howled coldly. Yu Jiao was dead, just days after accompanying him to pray for blessings. Now she was gone. The Crown Prince couldn't believe it as he touched Yu Jiao's face, calling out to her repeatedly, "Yu Jiao, wake up. How could you leave just like this, when I disguised myself as a maid and entered the mansion?" The Crown Prince was lying over Yu Jiao, weeping bitterly. Kneeling behind him, I sobbed uncontrollably, choking out my words. "Madam, why? Why didn't you listen to the master's warning? The master clearly said that the Red One's misfortune looms over the household these days, and warned you not to go out on the 1st and 15th days of the month, otherwise, sob, woo-woo." The Crown Prince whipped his head around so violently I feared he might sprain his neck. He grabbed my sleeve with frantic urgency. "What did you say? What Crimson Phoenix calamity? What else could it mean?" His eyes were so bloodshot they seemed about to drip crimson. "Explain yourself clearly to this Crown Prince." His grip made me tremble uncontrollably, my tears falling even more fiercely. With tearful eyes, she replied, "Yes, it was the evening before last. A wandering monk came to our gate and pointed at the sky above the mansion, saying our household faces a disaster of the Crimson Phoenix, a calamity that would endanger the master's life. The mistress feared it might affect His Highness, so she said she would go to Hongfa Temple the next day to offer incense and pray for his blessings. But the master also said this disaster would affect the lady of the house even more severely, advising her not to leave home on the 1st and 15th days of the lunar month, lest she meet mortal danger. But the mistress wouldn't listen to the warning and insisted on going. Ah, my lady, how cruelly you met your end." I lay prostrate on the ground, weeping inconsolably. The Crown Prince slumped to the floor, muttering deliriously, "It's me, all my fault, I killed her." I tugged faintly at the corner of my lips, silently spitting in contempt. Where was all this remorse earlier? Yu Jiao took the fake death pill. As long as it doesn't exceed 7 days, just give her the antidote and she'll be fine. Counting the days, she'll be buried right on the 7th day. I just need to dig her out in time. Then it was my turn. When I returned to the residence, Xiaotsue, who served in the front courtyard, told me that Song Huana, the legitimate daughter of the Prime Minister's household, had arrived. She went straight into Lu Yu's study upon arrival and hadn't come out all afternoon. I took the lily and fritillary bulb soup she was about to deliver to the study and slipped a few pieces of silver into her hand instead. When I pushed the door open, Song Hwana was leaning against the desk with tender affection in her eyes. Watching Lu Yu write, Lu Yu remained absorbed in his brushwork, not even lifting his head. Placing the warm soup gently on the desk, I softly reminded, "My lord, have some warm soup before you continue writing." Hearing my voice, Lu Yu finally looked up, her brows furrowed momentarily, her voice tinged with displeasure. "What brings you here?" Like someone who'd done wrong, I lowered my head, pressing my lips together before responding softly. "I heard from the front courtyard that you've caught a chill, so I wanted to bring the lily and fritillary bulb soup myself. And also check on you." The last words escaped my lips as faint as a mosquito's hum, but I'm certain both people in the room heard it clearly. Song Hwana let out a mocking laugh and said coyly to Lu Yu, "So this is your bed-warming maid? She's not exactly devastatingly beautiful, and dressed so shabbily too, contrary to his portrayal in the book." Lu Yu didn't grovel, he merely furrowed his brows slightly. His voice was cold as he said to me, "You go back first. I'll come find you in a couple of days." Reluctantly casting him one last glance, I left the room dejectedly. Once outside, I quickened my pace and returned to my own courtyard. I spread out rough paper and wrote a letter to Lu Yu, pouring out my 5 years of unrequited love for him. At the end, I told him I saw no hope in living anymore. I was going to seek my deceased parents. After completing all this, I picked up my bundle and squeezed through the dog hole against the biting wind. Not daring to delay on the road, I hurried up the mountain through the night. At the edge of the cliff, I placed a rock to weigh down one of my embroidered shoes, then I changed into another pair of shoes and rushed down the cliff in haste. Lu Yu didn't earn his position as the assistant minister of the Court of Judicial Review for nothing. His mind was meticulous, his observations keen, and countless major cases had passed through his hands. I had to attend to every detail meticulously before I could feel at ease indulging in carefree pleasures with Yu Jiao. By the time we reached the bottom of the cliff, the sky was already faintly lightening. I tore the blood-stained ruchuan I had prepared earlier into strips and scattered them into the wind. This valley bottom, also known as Wolf Valley, is frequently seen by passing farmers with wolves roaming about. This way, even if Lu Yu doesn't find my body, he'll naturally imagine me being torn apart and devoured by wild wolves. After waiting for several days, the day finally came when Yu Jiao was buried. Late at night, I exerted tremendous effort to dig her out. Within half an hour of administering the antidote, she woke up. The moment she regained consciousness, she clung desperately to my neck, exclaiming, "Oh my God, I was scared to death." It wasn't until much later that we learned how the Crown Prince and Lu Yu had nearly lost their minds after our deaths. The Crown Prince fared slightly better. At least he believed Yu Jiao had been laid to rest peacefully, giving him a place to mourn even in his longing. Only when he lost her did he realize that he had long since lost his heart to Yu Jiao. Before Song Hwana returned, he had already decided to settle down with Yu Jiao and was planning to stop her contraceptive medicine to have a child with her. As for Lu Yu, he found the letter I left for him 7 days later. During those days, the Crown Prince performed the funeral rites for Yu Jiao with a heart as dead as ashes. Song Hwana turned her gaze toward him, perhaps in her heart. She believed that as heaven's favored daughter, she deserved to be cherished in the palms of outstanding men. The faint infatuation Lu Yu had for her in his youth gradually wore away completely during her 7 consecutive days of pestering. The reason he didn't come to see me during those 7 days was also because he feared Song Hwana's jealousy, worried that in his absence from Shengjing, she might come to harass me, only, everything was too late. By the time Lu Yu reached the edge of the cliff, all he found in the nearby tree hollow was one of my shoes. He frantically led people to search beneath the cliff. At last, in a patch of withered grass, they found a blood-stained sleeve of my garment. He clutched that torn sleeve tightly in both hands, kneeling in anguish. He let out a heart-wrenching roar, like a wolf king who had lost his beloved. What became of the Crown Prince and Lu Yu had nothing more to do with me or Yu Jiao. The prosperous land of India gained 2 beautiful, wealthy women. We invested in a small male brothel together. For 3 years, We lived in carefree bliss, waking to the scent of flowers in the morning and returning to admire the moonlight at dusk. During the day, the establishment bustled with guests, while at night, we drank and reveled with the young entertainers. Now, gazing at the 12 newly arrived entertainers, each with their own unique charm, our eyes sparkled with delight. And the grins on our faces simply couldn't be contained. With a wave of her delicate hand, Yu Jiao declared, "Show us your talents. Those who perform well shall be rewarded." The first, clad in a blue robe, held a jade flute, its melody so captivatingly sweet it seemed to lure away one's very soul. The second, draped in crimson robes, danced gracefully, light as a swallow, with sleeves fluttering in the whirl, a sight utterly intoxicating. The third, with delicate features and clear eyes, cradled a peeper, slender fingers plucking strings like large and small pearls falling upon a jade plate. The fourth, a scholar in black, unfurled paper and wielded his brush, presenting before our eyes a masterpiece of calligraphy in mere moments. Each person has their own unique qualities that make others applaud in admiration. Yu Jiao chose the man in red robes. Just as I was hesitating whether to select the young master in black, the last youth stepped forward onto the stage. With a graceful wave of his hand, this young man removed his outer robe, revealing firm, bouncy pectoral muscles and well-defined abdominal muscles. Beside him, Yu Jiao sat bolt upright as if startled from her deathbed, nearly overturning the wine table in her excitement. I pressed her arm down and crooked a finger at the young man. The other male courtesans turned away in annoyance. Yu Jiao also went to drink with the red-robed man, looking equally frustrated. The youth obediently sat close to me. I lifted his chin and admired him up close once more. Truly a peerless beauty, his brows like distant mountains tinged with emerald, his eyes resembling autumn waters rippling with waves, broad shoulders tapering to a narrow waist, with perky buttocks and long legs. As if an immortal had stepped right out of a painting, I tried my best to control my drool, but my hands moved uncontrollably, first caressing his firm, bouncy pectorals before sliding down to his well-defined abs. He shyly caught my mischievous little hand. With his other hand, he poured me a cup of wine, his voice brimming with flirtation as he said, "Don't be so impatient, my lady. First, have a drink of this autumn dew wine, freshly delivered from Shengjing City this morning." Autumn dew wine, such a familiar name. The first night I served as Lu Yu's bed-warming maid, I trembled uncontrollably with nervousness. Just like this, Lu Yu held my small hand and led me to the table. He poured me a cup of Cholu Nong wine, then filled his own cup to the brim. With a smile playing at his lips, he said, "Drink this cup of Cholu Nong, and from now on, this place shall be your home." Home, what an enticing word. I've thought countless times that the reason I still can't forget him until now is precisely because he once gave me the illusion of home. A cup of autumn dew wine pressed to my lips brings me back to my senses, guided by the young man's hand. I tilt my head back and drink it all in one go. A drop of wine accidentally slipped down, and the youth was just about to lick it with his tongue. The door was suddenly pushed open. The Crown Prince and Lu Yu stared at the two of us with dark, sinister expressions. Their gazes were as cold as water from a 1,000-year-old frozen pool, sending chills down one's spine and making the hair stand on end. The boy remained frozen in his previous posture, and I nervously shoved him away. Swallowing hard, utterly pathetic, I exchanged glances with Yu Jiao, both seeing the words inescapable doom reflected in each other's eyes. Squeezing my eyes shut, I violently overturned the folding screen beside me. "Run through the window, there are horses at the back gate," I shouted at Yu Jiao. The next second, I was grabbed by the collar and pulled into a sturdy embrace. A cold smile played at the corners of Lu Yu's lips. "Run then, weren't you so good at running?" To prevent us from coordinating our stories, the Crown Prince and Lu Yu took us back to Shengjing separately. On the journey back to the capital, I fell into a long, drawn-out dream. At that time, I had just transmigrated into this world, where my father was a third-rank Zhongshu Ling who had recently been convicted and dismissed from office, with all our family property confiscated. My mother, already in poor health, passed away not long after, heartbroken. My father followed her by hanging himself with a white silk cord. Overnight, I became an orphaned girl despised by everyone. Once, a brothel pimp grabbed me by the collar, trying to drag me into the pleasure quarters. I struggled desperately and bit his hand hard. He slapped me hard in pain, having not eaten for days. I fell to the ground from the force, my vision darkening in waves. Just then, a pair of clean deerskin boots appeared before my eyes, with great effort. I looked up and saw a man standing before me dressed in crimson official robes. He wore a black gauze cap, his sharp brows and star-like eyes exuding a stern yet commanding presence. Later, he took me back to his residence. He asked if I'd be willing to become his bed-warming maid. At that time, I could barely afford meals, and avoiding being sold into a brothel was already fortunate. Gazing at his refined, handsome face, I nodded tearfully. For the next 5 years, no other women appeared by his side, though I was merely his bed-warming maid. His daily duties kept him busy. He never returned to the estate before the moon hung high and stars grew sparse. Over time, this lifestyle gave him chronic stomach troubles. Every evening, I'd simmer a bowl of nourishing bashen kanji to soothe his stomach. Gradually, his care for me grew more frequent. Occasionally, when he returned home early, he would bring me delicate little trinkets on my birthdays. He would also carefully select gifts for me. In the household, apart from him, I held the highest status. Living alone in a tranquil courtyard, all the servants whispered among themselves that one day I might truly become their mistress. The carriage reached a mountain path, and I woke up from the jolting. As soon as I opened my eyes, I saw Luyu leaning against the carriage wall, feigning sleep. From the occasional slight tremble of his eyelids, I knew he wasn't actually asleep. Looking downward, my gaze fell upon the jade pendant hanging at his waist, the very one I had gifted him, strung with a red cord. It dangled conspicuously from the most prominent spot on his belt. Perhaps my stare burned too intensely. He could no longer maintain his pretense. Her beautiful peach blossom eyes fluttered open. Our gazes met, and for a moment both of us were speechless. In the end, it was I who broke the silence with a calm question. "Where is Yu Jiao?" Luyu gave me a wary glance and said in a sinister tone, "Don't even think about running away again. Neither you nor her will get another chance." I stared straight at him. "I want to see Yu Jiao." Ching Cheng. He took a deep breath, warning me with forced patience. "Don't make me tie you up." I struggled to get off the carriage, but he grabbed my shoulders and pinned me beneath him. 3 years apart, and my heart couldn't help but pound violently, turning my head away in embarrassment. I shouted angrily, "Get off." He looked at my flushed face, a wicked smile curling at the corner of his lips. His slender fingers roamed freely over my body, igniting sparks with every touch, pushing me to my limits. I was left blushing furiously under his teasing. "Let me go," I protested, both embarrassed and annoyed, my hands pushing against him incessantly. He forcefully sealed my lips, his tongue dominating and exploring within. After what felt like an eternity, he released me. Panting heavily, his eyes still burned with unconcealed desire. "Why are you treating me like this?" I stared at him, my voice trembling with anger and hurt. A flicker of complex emotions flashed through his eyes, his voice hoarse. "It's been 3 years. Do you know how much I've missed you?" I pushed him away. "If you missed me, then take me to see Yu Jiao." Luyu locked me up. He wouldn't even let me return to the courtyard with the dog hole. Day after day, he kept me confined in his study, even having someone place a comfortable daybed there for me. On ordinary days, he would handle official business at his desk while I read idle books on the daybed. During this time, I'd attempted escape countless times, but Luyu seemed to have awakened some detective bloodline within him each time I fled. He'd swiftly catch me without fail. I listlessly closed the book, walked up to him, snatched the brush from his hand, and threw it to the ground. This was already the 20th brush I had thrown. Without even lifting his eyelids, he took another from the sandalwood box beside him, dipped it in ink, and continued writing in one fluid motion, as if the brush in his hand had always been the very same one from before. Furious with him, I played my final trump card. This time he finally raised his head and calmly looked at the dagger I had pressed against my own neck. With a tone of resignation, he asked, "Do you really have to go see her?" I nodded firmly, forgetting about the dagger still resting against my neck. The delicate skin was instantly sliced open, and blood trickled down the snow-white neck. A flash of distress quickly crossed Lu Yu's eyes as he swooped forward to snatch the dagger from me. Gritting through the pain, I took a step back and asked him tearfully, "Will you take me to see him or not?" "I will." He stood frozen in place, his brows knitted together in tension. "Just put down the dagger first. I'll take you first thing tomorrow morning." "Why not today? What time is it now? Do you want to go watch them sleep?" I sniffled and threw the dagger on the ground. "Ouch, that really hurts." As he applied the medicine, I warned him again with lingering distrust. "I still have plenty of daggers, don't you dare deceive me." He gently blew a breath against my neck, raising his doting eyes to meet mine. "Good." On the carriage ride to the Crown Prince's residence, Lu Yu shared a piece of news with me. Song Hwana is dead. After Yu Jiao left, the Crown Prince became very quiet. At first, he thought he was the one who caused Yu Jiao's death. If he had come to see her that night and summoned the imperial physician, perhaps Yu Jiao wouldn't have died. But the more he thought about it, the more something felt off. Yu Jiao's constitution had never been that fragile before. How could a mere high fever have taken her life? The master says misfortune approaches. Avoid going out on the 1st and 15th days of the month. When he finally calmed down, he remembered what the maid had said on the day Yu Jiao passed away. But when he went to find that maid again, she had left a suicide note and followed Yu Jiao in death. 2 lives lost in an instant made the Crown Prince even more convinced that this Red Luan's misfortune had taken Yu Jiao's life. As for who Red Luan referred to, it went without saying. The Crown Prince, driven mad, had Song Hwana bound and forced to kneel before Yu Jiao's memorial tablet, making her kowtow in apology. Song Hwana struggled desperately, cursing the Crown Prince as stupid as a pig. The Crown Prince was furious, pressing her head down and slamming it heavily against the ground again and again. When Lu Yu arrived, the Crown Prince, nearly deranged, was still pressing Song Hwana's motionless head and continuing to slam it down. A large pool of bright red blood had spread across the ground. It had even soaked the prince's moon-white robe. It was only when Lu Yu produced evidence of the Prime Minister's collusion with the enemy and treason that the Crown Prince finally calmed down slightly. Turns out, the official's wife whom the opera troupe had offended back then was none other than Song Hwana's mother. While there was indeed a troop leader who beat and scolded Lu Yu, there was also Lu Yu's own twin brother, his closest kin. That day, his brother desperately pushed Lu Yu out to safety, only to be caught by the official wife's servants and beaten to death. Young Lu Yu swore an oath then and there, if he ever gained power, he would avenge his brother and clear his parents' names. All these years, he had been closely observing the Prime Minister's residence. Until 3 years ago when he discovered the Prime Minister's unusually close ties with the royal family of another country. After that, he worked tirelessly day and night to gather evidence, and finally 2 days ago, he obtained proof that could warrant the extermination of the Prime Minister's entire clan. Lu Yu took away Song Hwana, who was left with only a breath of life. He locked her and her parents together in the cold, damp dungeon. As she turned away, Song Hwana crawled over and grasped the hem of Lu Yu's crimson official robe. "Lu Lang, was there ever a moment of sincerity in your heart for me?" Lu Yu pulled his robe free, reverting to his usual ruthless and cold-blooded demeanor. He said indifferently, "Song Hwana, I had originally intended to spare you, but you've provoked someone you shouldn't have." Lu Yu left without even casting a glance at Song Hwana. Song Hwana crouched on the ground, laughing bitterly and miserably. After a while, her shrill roar echoed through the prison. "Qin Zhong, Lu Yu, I'll haunt you even as a ghost." When I arrived at the Crown Prince's residence, I had imagined many possible scenarios. Yu Jiao being tied up in a secret chamber by the Crown Prince, forced to eat spoiled food and cold meals. Yu Jiao suffering from the Crown Prince's emotional abuse and torment. Yu Jiao spending her days in misery and despair, waiting for me to rescue her. But what on earth is happening here? The Crown Prince, soaked through, standing in the pond bending over to pick up golden beans. Yu Jiao, wrapped in a brand new fox fur coat, stood by the poolside directing him with a coquettish smile. "There, and over there, hurry up and pick them. Hey, that one got snatched away by the koi fish. How can you be so clumsy?" My eyes twitched from staring so hard. I rubbed them, then propped my eyelids open with my fingers, just making sure I wasn't seeing things. Lu Yu whispered in my ear, Forgot to tell you. She can't remember the past. Ah, I widened my eyes in astonishment, silently offering my knees in admiration. Yu Jiao, as expected of you, pretending to have amnesia. Damn impressive. It was now the depths of winter, and the pond water was icy cold to the bone. If he were to soak like this for 2 hours, his legs would probably be ruined. The crown prince stood in the water, his face already blue and purple from the cold, moving as stiffly as a long-neglected wooden puppet. Yet Yu Jiao was still giggling, urging him on incessantly. Hurry up already. Why are you as slow as a snail? In the end, I couldn't bear to watch, afraid she might actually play the crown prince to death and I'd have to follow him to the grave. After much coaxing, I finally got her to let the crown prince come up. Lu Yu accompanied the crown prince to change clothes. I went back to the room with her. Once inside, I dismissed the servants. What were you thinking? If you kill him, how will you escape? I scolded her helplessly, holding her frost-reddened little hands. She glanced indifferently out the window. You don't know, the moment I stepped back into this house, I remember how on New Year's Day, he abandoned me alone and thinly dressed on the street. It took me a full hour to stagger back to the crown prince's residence. When I returned, my body was frozen through. My feet and calves immediately developed frostbite, itching and aching so badly I wished I were dead. That night, I ran a high fever and sent my maid to fetch him, but he told her I deserved it. He was the one who forced me to give my cloak to Song Hwana. How was it my fault? He doesn't have to love me, but why must he trample me so cruelly? Yu Jiao sobbed uncontrollably in my arms, her trembling shoulders making my heart ache as I held her tighter. I wasn't unaware that Yu Jiao deeply loved the crown prince in her heart, it's just that she never spoke of her grievances, leading me to mistakenly believe she was more detached than I. Who would have thought that beneath her seemingly indifferent surface lay wounds so deep they reached the bone? The crown prince and Lu Yu had somehow already entered the room. The hem of the crown prince's robe was still dripping wet. Looking at his bloodshot eyes, I knew. He had heard everything. He wasn't unaware that Yu Jiao was pretending not to remember the past. He was simply atoning in his own way. These days, during daylight hours, Yu Jiao would make him climb trees to gather snow, claiming she needed heated snow water for bathing. At night, she'd have him play the qin in a drafty pavilion, insisting she couldn't sleep without his music. In just one short month, the once radiant and illustrious crown prince had become haggard beyond recognition. Yu Jiao lifted her head from my embrace and slowly straightened her posture. After glancing at the two at the door, her voice was calm. Qin Zhong, since you've already heard everything, let's not beat around the bush. Let me leave, and from now on, we'll owe each other nothing. No. Qin Zhong threw himself before Yu Jiao in anguish, gripping her hands tightly. Jiao, I was wrong. Forgive me. Just this once, won't you? Yu Jiao turned her head away with closed eyes, her lips trembling silently. Just when the crown prince thought Yu Jiao would soften her heart, Qin Zhong, a shattered mirror cannot be mended. Let go. No. The crown prince frantically pressed Yu Jiao's hand against his own face. Jiao, Song Hwana is already dead. No one will stand between us anymore. Stay, won't you? Yu Jiao smiled. 2 clear tears slid from the corners of her eyes. With almost no hesitation, she spoke. No, we can't go back. The prince's eyes instantly dimmed as he slumped to the ground in despair. He was crying. He wept with both sorrow and regret. After a while, he forced himself up, unwilling to give up, and pressed on. Jiao, you used to love me most of all. How could you change so suddenly? Did you ever truly love me at all? Yu Jiao gazed at him with sorrowful eyes, tears once again slipping from the corners. For 5 years, I held you in the palm of my hand every single day, cherished you with utmost care, and gave you everything I could. Tell me, was there ever sincerity in my heart? The crown prince's body, braced against the edge of the couch, swayed precariously, his face pale to the point of transparency. Yu Jiao raised her head, wiping away all the tears from the corners of her eyes. When she lowered her head again, her voice was filled with hazy memories. The year I married you, I knew nothing. The imperial concubines disliked me, and the servants in the mansion didn't respect me. Once, the 6th princess came to the mansion and made me climb high to pick cherries for her. I was terrified, afraid I might fall from that tall tree. Just then you returned. You scolded the 6th princess, then effortlessly leaped up and caught me, nestled in your arms, clinging tightly to your neck. I silently vowed to myself, no matter whether this man would love me in the future, I would love him wholeheartedly and stay with him forever. Silent tears spilled through the Crown Prince's fingers, accompanied by broken, hoarse sobs. Yu Jiao quietly rose from beside the prince, looking down at him from above. Her eyes held their last trace of tenderness. I don't mind telling you, Jiyu Qingcheng is my dearest friend, in this lifetime. Besides you, she's the only one I'd want to stay with forever. We'd promised to leave together, but on that final night of raging fever, I couldn't help thinking, if only. If you'd pushed open the door to see me, if you'd said one gentle word to me, I wouldn't have gone. I would have given her all the silver, then stayed behind to be with you always. The Crown Prince's body finally gave way, collapsing to the ground, hollow eyes like a stagnant deep pool. Lu Yu went out and instructed the steward to summon the imperial physician. I gently grasped Yu Jiao's cold hand. As she stepped out, Yu Jiao did not look back, only leaving behind a faint remark, Qin Zhong. Our fate in this life is over. If you truly still have any affection for me in your heart, please don't come looking for me again. As I stepped outside, Lu Yu was standing right there by the door. After glancing at Yu Jiao, he came over and took my hand. I tried to shake him off but couldn't break free. While my other hand still held Yu Jiao's tightly, helplessly, he took both of us back to his residence. After settling Yu Jiao in the courtyard where I had previously lived, I followed Lu Yu into his study. No sooner had the door closed than Lu Yu pinned me tightly against it. He lifted my chin and kissed me fiercely. I was startled by this sudden kiss, yet he delved deeper until my tongue went numb and my legs gave way. Only then did he lift me and place me on the desk. Then came more aggressive and possessive kisses, falling like rain. My back ached from the hard surface, and tears welled up at the corners of my eyes from the overwhelming sensation. Just as he tore my dress and gripped my waist with both hands, slap, I mustered all my strength and slapped him across the face. Lu Yu's fair cheek instantly bore the vivid red imprint of 5 fingers. I seized the chance to sit up and scrambled to the floor, glaring at him warily. Lu Yu licked his swollen lip corner, grinning with wicked amusement. I always thought you were just a docile little rabbit, never imagined you'd turn out to be a hissing wildcat. Heh, I laughed self-deprecatingly. Whether it's a rabbit or a cat, in the end, aren't they just objects you use to warm your bed? He froze for a moment, then raised his eyes to study me intently, as if confirming, in your heart, is this how you see me, how you see yourself? Otherwise, I answered as if it were the most natural thing. Ha! Lu Yu suddenly let out a bitter laugh. He grabbed my hand and pressed it against his chest. Jiyu Qingcheng, listen to me clearly. I've never treated you as some bedwarmer. In my heart, you've long been my woman. Is that so? I shook off his hand and took another step back. Then what's with the light purple clothes? What's with you holding me while calling out Song Huana's name? Was it all because you love me? He froze at my question, taking a long moment before finding his voice again. That's not how it is. Listen to me. I only at the beginning. Stop talking. I cut him off. I don't want to hear another word. 1 year. Qingcheng. Give me 1 year. I stared blankly at his outstretched finger. If by then you still want to leave, I won't stop you. After knowing Lu Yu for so long, this was the first time he'd ever compromised with me. Although a year is not a short time, I knew this was already the biggest concession he could make. In the past, he had never been guarded against me, which was why I had the chance to escape right under his nose. Right now, if he refuses, he could drag me back even if I fled to the ends of the earth. So, after only a moment's hesitation, I agreed. I returned to the small courtyard where Yu Jiao lived. Yu Jiao was anxiously waiting for me by the window. Seeing me enter, she abruptly stood up and hurried toward me. You're finally back. Well, did Lu Yu let you go? When I told her about my agreement with Lu Yu and asked her to leave first, her immediate reaction was, how can that be? Lu Yu is the deputy minister of the Court of Judicial Review. If he changes his mind later, what can a young woman like you possibly do against him? I gently calmed her down, had her sit, and poured her a cup of water before speaking softly. Lu Yu isn't the kind of person who goes back on his word, even if he still won't let me leave after a year. I have my own ways to get away, trust me. She sprang to her feet again, What good is trusting you? By then I'll be stranded in a foreign land, and distant water can't quench present thirst. No, if you can't leave. Then I won't go either, I'll stay right here and wait for you. Yu Jiao's identity was that of the former crown princess, moreover, a supposedly deceased former crown princess. Staying in Shengjing would be fraught with difficulties and dangers, not to mention the ever-present risk of the crown prince abducting her again. The freedom she had worked so hard to obtain couldn't be ruined like this. After staying up all night talking by candlelight, I finally sent her off onto the carriage. Though she was reluctant to leave, after traveling some distance, she still leaned out from the carriage window, anxiously confirming with me again and again, "Promise me, no more than a year. If you don't come for me, I'll risk execution to return and find you." The wind was too strong, scattering my tears into the air. I ran toward her for a few steps, cupped my hands around my mouth, and shouted loudly, "Go in peace, I will surely come for you." Ever since standing too long in the pond that day, the crown prince had fallen gravely ill. The imperial physicians shuttled daily through the crown prince's residence, emerging each time with sighs and sorrowful faces, muttering to myself, "A sickness of the heart is hard to cure." When Lu Yu told me these things, my heart remained utterly unmoved. I knew Lu Yu wanted me to mention this matter in the letter I was sending to Yu Jiao if she returned. Perhaps I wouldn't leave. For these 11 months, he had doted on me excessively, returning early from court every day to dine with me, strolling with me under the moonlight, and even sharing my bed at night. You must understand, in the past, no matter how late it was, he would always send me back to my own courtyard, never allowing me to spend the night in his bed. Amid his daily tenderness and affection, I sometimes couldn't help but think that if Yu Jiao were to find a good match in the future, perhaps I could spend the rest of my life with Lu Yu in such ordinary happiness. There were still 19 days left until the 1-year agreement. Last night, Lu Yu was like a man possessed, holding me tightly and demanding endlessly, as if wanting to imprint me into his very soul. Entwined relentlessly through eternity, he left me covered in bruises, every bone aching as if crushed beneath a heavy weight. Xiaotsue, hearing the commotion outside, came in to help me wash and dress. The usually lively little maid was oddly quiet today. I asked with concern, but she just pressed her lips together without saying a word. Her unusual behavior seemed to be related to me. After finishing my ablutions, I pushed the door open and stepped out, only to be startled by the sight of lanterns and red silk decorations everywhere in the mansion. Even the imposing vermilion-lacquered main gate was already adorned with gilded double happiness characters. At this sight, my heart sank abruptly, and a sense of foreboding surged within me. Late at night, Lu Yu returned very late. When he embraced me from behind, an unfamiliar scent of osman thus brushed